Imagine a man who, in the midst of the American Civil War, a time when loyalty to the Confederacy meant everything, dared to say no to everything that was wrong. A man who raised his voice against slavery, inequality, and a government that protected the powerful while sacrificing the poor. This man was Newton Knight, a poor farmer from Mississippi who decided he wouldn't die fighting for a cause he'd never believed in. Today, we reveal the forgotten yet astonishing story of the Free State of Jones, a rebellion born in the swamps and pine forests of Mississippi, led by a man whose bravery shattered the silence of injustice. Stay with us, because once you know the full truth, it will forever change the way you see heroism, loyalty, and the fight for freedom. Newton Knight was born in 1829 in Jones County, Mississippi. Raised in poverty, he grew up witnessing firsthand the brutal divide between the rich slave-owning elite and the struggling small farmers. When the Civil War erupted, Knight was drafted to fight for the Confederacy. But as he marched to battle, he recognized a cruel hypocrisy. Wealthy plantation owners, those with 20 or more slaves, could legally buy their sons out of military service. This infamous 20 Negro law left the poor to bleed and die defending the wealth of men who had always viewed them as expendable. It was here, standing on muddy battlefields, that Newton Knight's conviction took root, not as a soldier loyal to the South, but as a man driven to rebel against it. Haunted by the injustice and unwilling to fight for the privilege of the rich, Knight deserted the Confederate Army, a crime punishable by death. But desertion was only the beginning. Returning to Jones County, he found other men who shared his anger and disillusionment. Fellow deserters, small farmers crushed by taxes, and enslaved men and women who had escaped the plantations. In the thick swamps and dense pine forests, they built a hidden community fueled by defiance. Newton Knight soon emerged as their leader, not just hiding from Confederate patrols, but striking back. They raided supply convoys, confiscated food and livestock, and redistributed them to starving families. What began as scattered resistance evolved into an organized insurgency known as the Free State of Jones. Picture what it meant to openly defy the Confederacy from deep inside Mississippi, a heartland of secessionist pride. Knight and his followers risked everything, were branded traitors, and were hunted relentlessly. Yet they did not hide in fear. In a moment of bold defiance, they raised the stars and stripes over Ellisville, declaring their loyalty to the Union and their independence from the Confederacy. Though never officially recognized by the Union, the Free State of Jones stood as a symbol of hope for those crushed under Confederate rule. Newton Knight became a living legend, feared by Confederate authorities and secretly admired by the oppressed who dared to dream of freedom. But Knight's story didn't end with the fall of the Confederacy. When the war was over and many in the South moved to reestablish white supremacy through laws and violence, Knight refused to bend. His commitment to equality ran deeper than the battlefield. He openly lived with Rachel, a black woman who had once been enslaved, and together they had a family. Their union, considered illegal and scandalous, challenged the very core of Southern society. By choosing love over prejudice, Knight's courage echoed long after the guns had gone silent. His home became a symbol of quiet revolution, proving true bravery isn't always in battle, but often in living your truth against a world that demands your silence. For many Southerners, Knight was nothing but a traitor who had dishonored his homeland. But to others, he was a prophet ahead of his time. One fact stands undeniable. His unwavering conviction reshaped the narrative of resistance. Knight showed that courage isn't blind obedience. It is having the strength to stand against an unjust system, even when you stand alone. The Free State of Jones was in team merely a rebellion against Confederate power. It was a spark of revolution, an assertion that ordinary people could say enough and force history to listen. This story is also about who controls the past. For decades, the legend of Newton Knight was buried or twisted to fit a narrative that glorified the Confederacy. Yet truth has a way of surviving. In telling this story today, we challenge the carefully crafted myths that shaped generations. Knight did not fight for medals or applause. He fought so the voices of the poor, the enslaved, and the forgotten could break through the silence. His defiance was dangerous, not just to the Confederacy, but to anyone who believed history should be written by the victors alone. And if you think the spirit of the Free State of Jones died with night, think again. That spirit awakens each time someone refuses to accept injustice as destiny. It lives in acts of compassion that defy hatred, in voices that speak uncomfortable truths, and in the courage to stand up even when the cost is high. By remembering Newton Knight, we do more than honor the past. We ignite the courage to challenge the present. Newton Knight wasn't perfect. Like every real hero, he carried flaws and contradictions. But his humanity is what makes his courage resonate through time. He was not a marble statue of glory, but a man who time and again chose action over fear. It's that choice, not made once, but countless times, that transformed him from a poor farmer into a symbol of resistance. His story is a reminder that real change doesn't come from waiting for heroes, but from becoming one in our own imperfect way. Now, ask yourself, why was this story hidden for so long? What other truths lie buried beneath the official versions we're taught? At Vertex of Time, we peel back the layers of history to uncover the forgotten, the forbidden, and the revolutionary. If this glimpse into Newton Knight's life moved you, imagine the countless other tales waiting to be rediscovered. Subscribe to Vertex of Time, turn on notifications, and join us on this journey to bring history's lost voices back to life. Because like Knight proved, power to challenge history, docility belong to the few, it belongs to anyone willing to ask the questions others fear to ask. And today, that anyone is you.